We need to talk about police violence in Germany because it's pretty bad. Many of you have seen the brutal assault by police on participants of the International Women's Day March in Berlin this weekend, or many of the countless incidents last year alone. They all have a pattern and they all have little to no consequences for the perpetrators. But let's look at a few numbers first. In 2023, German authorities processed approximately 4,550 criminal investigations against police officers. Care to guess how many made it to court? A mere 80 cases. These numbers paint a disturbing image. Over 90% of all investigations are simply dropped. Only 2% ever result in any form of charges. That means that in 2021, for example, only 27 officers were convicted of bodily harm. 27 people in a nation of 83 million people. Researchers estimate that the unreported cases of police violence lie somewhere between 12,000 and 25,000 annually. That means that each year up to 25,000 cases of police violence see no justice. Why don't victims report? Because too many times anyone who files charges against police receives counter charges in return. Imagine calling out your attacker only to be labeled the criminal yourself. There are literally no independent oversight mechanisms for police, leading to a plethora of structural issues. Not only is police investigating other police, with officers often being reluctant to testify against colleagues or treat investigations with leniency, courts are also immensely biased, inherently trusting police testimony more than civilian accounts. Combined with a lack of proper identification for officers, making the identification of perpetrators difficult, the situation in Germany is so bad that the European Court of Human Rights even reprimanded Germany for these issues, as did many human rights organizations. So, who's the most affected? More than 55% of excessive force incidents happen during demonstrations or political actions. And studies show that at political demonstrations in particular, there's a higher percentage of women and non-binary people among the victims. There's also an important conversation to be had about institutional racism within the German police force, because people of global majority are disproportionately targeted during routine checks and everyday interactions with police. Fact is, however, that police authorities in Germany employ different strategies depending on the political coloring of the demonstration. Protests associated with right-wing or far-right groups are often protected by police because here freedom of expression is paramount. The credo: the state guarantees its citizens the right to assemble freely and express different opinions. But for demonstrations perceived as progressive or left-leaning, the police tends to harass, intimidate, and to use force. Police often issue statements with blanket narratives about aggressive demonstrators and law-abiding officers, and many media outlets uncritically regurgitate this perspective. Good police on one side, evil demonstrators on the other. It's like watching a Netflix documentary and its sequel, except they're about the same event and completely contradict each other. One is a pristine crime procedural where the police always gets their man. The social media version is found footage horror where the supposed heroes are chasing children, drag protesters by their hair, and sexually harass women. And only one of these has actual video evidence. So for those who still cling on to the myth of police as your friend and helper while lamenting the increase of violence against police, let's look at these numbers too. A closer examination of the official statistics reveals that more than 2/3 of so-called attacks on police are merely classified as resistance or threats. These are essentially minor offenses where actual violence is rarely involved. Contrary to government narratives, far few officers experience violent attacks than claimed. Even these numbers include attempted attacks, not just the completed ones. Violent acts itself are counted separately in the statistics, and contrary to government narratives, far fewer officers experience violent attacks than claimed. And even these numbers include attempted attacks, not just completed ones. This goes so far that even the Center for Criminology and Police Research notes that while we do see an increase in minor offenses like insults, threats, and simple assault, more serious crimes such as completed dangerous bodily harm or attempted homicide even recorded a drastic decline over the years. So the narrative about the endangered police officer facing unprecedented violence is about as accurate as those LinkedIn influencers telling you that they wake up at 4 a.m. to meditate in ice baths and to manifest success, when in reality they are 3 bags of chips deep into a Netflix binge at 10 p.m. like the rest of us. So it's time to confront the reality. The system is protecting itself and not the public it's meant to serve.